Okay, welcome back. Lesson 3. We are going to get into the nuts and bolts of investment analysis. So sit down, get ready, take some notes. This is going to be a big lesson. We're going to be dealing with all aspects of investment analysis. Effectively, I am portraying and taking 25 years of my career, my commercial appraisal background, commercial real estate sales knowledge, and we're packing it into about an hour and a half. So take notes, feel free to stop the video along the way and replay things because we're going to come fast and furious with a lot of things. So let's jump right into lesson 3, investment analysis. And again, where we've been, we have talked about where CRE, what is CRE, why commercial real estate, who are some of the players involved. We've talked about leasing versus sales, and now we're at the investment analysis section. So let's hop in. Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be going through in this lesson. One of the key pieces, the number that we're trying to derive, the number that you are trying to come up with or convey to your buyers, your sellers, is NOI, net operating income. And this is really the holy grail, if you will, of what we're trying to get to, what we're going to be analyzing. It is the number that we're going to be dividing by a cap rate to come up with value or extrapolating from comparables to get a cap rate, and we're going to talk about all that. So the importance of NOI is that it is first and foremost the most important number that when we're analyzing a property. The benefits of owning investment real estate, we're going to talk about that. Why do people do that? There's 4 main benefits of owning investment real estate. We're going to go through that. We're going to talk about income, expense, valuations. We're going to talk about how to calculate value. We're going to look at what a cap rate is and what it's not. We're going to talk about net present value, talk about cash flow models, how to analyze a property over multiple years and how we do that. And we've got some tools and some templates for you that are going to automatically do that. In that cash flow model, we're going to generate an internal rate of return, IRR. And you'll be able to do that at the end of this session. And then we'll round it out with just talking about capital accumulation and why, again, principal reduction, capital appreciation, all very, very important aspects of why people buy and hold real estate as an investment. So let's hop in. Let's talk about the importance of NOI. Net operating income. Is a calculation used to analyze real estate investments that generate income. NOI really is essentially if we take all of the income, all of the potential income, and we subtract out a vacancy and we then take off any expenses that we have to the property, we get net operating income. And this is before tax. This is before we have a mortgage payment, before principal and interest is taken out. So it is the number that we then can use to either enjoy those benefits of, pay tax on, make our mortgage payment on. So it's the bottom line number. Typically, we do not include in our expenses to derive NOI large major capital expenditures. We talked about in the last lesson about large CapEx expenditures like roof, parking lot restriping, big events that might only happen once every 5, 10, 20 years. Those we try to pull out below the line. So that would not be an expense that then derives NOI. So we just want to make sure that that's correct. And we've got a little graph here that will explain exactly, PGI, potential gross income, minus your vacancy, plus any additional income. And some properties do have additional income that's different than maybe your normal standard tenants that pay. Minus expenses equals NOI. You've got to know this formula inside and out. You're going to live and die by this formula as a commercial broker, as an investor. So again, this is the formula, potential gross income, PGI. I want to drive this home, minus vacancy and credit loss. A lot of times we'll say in the in the market that there's no vacancy or there's very, very low vacancy. As in today in my market, multifamily apartment buildings have a very low vacancy rate. Maybe it's less than 1%. Although we tend to lose revenue from bad credit with tenants. And so we also have to take off a little extra percentage, typically another 0.5% to 1% for credit loss. And so this is something that I believe you need to make sure that you're accounting for when you're looking at your properties, and not underestimate a very low vacancy rate, which then can impact value. And we'll show you how that impacts on the spreadsheet later. This equals our effective gross income, our EGI. So the EGI should be the number that the owners are basically collecting after they have any stabilized vacancy rates. And so that number, really, we would then take and add in any additional income. Additional income could be parking revenue. In an apartment building, it might be laundry income. If there's not washers and dryers in the units, maybe there's a laundry facility, parking income, additional non-refundable security deposits, pet deposits. Could be a variety of different things. Sometimes in commercial properties, you might see that there might be maybe a cell tower or some other income that maybe isn't regular, or a percentage rent income that comes in from a certain tenant. And we'll talk about some of those other additional income. But for the most part, that's going to be a pretty minor part of the equation. PGI, those rents that are coming in from the tenants, should account for a majority, if not all, of your income. That gets us again to our EGI, our effective gross income, and then we're going to take off those expenses. And depending on the lease structure, which we've talked about in a previous lesson, if the leases are triple net, then the tenants are paying for most of those expenses. So the expenses are going to be pretty low or very nominal. In an apartment situation where the owner is paying for taxes and insurance and repairs and maintenance, move-in, move-outs, any other legal fees that they might have, property management fees, those are all going to come out of the expense ratio. And once we've taken that out, we then get to our NOI. And we're going to talk about this in our Knox Street template, which you have access to in your course. And we'll go through that spreadsheet actually live here in a little bit. So this NOI really is again, that number that we strive for, that we try to look at, and we analyze other properties based on our subject property. We look at other comparables. What was their NOI? We can look at that on a per square foot basis. We can divide that into a per unit basis. How many units do we have in the apartment building? How many square feet do we have in the office building, the retail building? We can divide that and look at other properties and see how they're doing on an NOI per square foot basis. And that's one way to compare those properties and look and say, hey, my property is doing much better than others on an NOI basis. Or, man, I'm a little bit lower than some of the comparables that have sold here in the market. And that's another way you can compare NOI to other properties. That said, we have taken a little step back here. We have 4 main benefits of owning investment real estate, and they are cash flow, principal reduction, taxes, a lot of tax benefits, especially with the new tax law here in 2018 that was just enacted, and then appreciation. And so these 4 benefits are why investors buy and sell commercial real estate and investment real estate. And so let's start talking about those, and let's go through those, and we'll bring in our Knox Street example and show you what some of those numbers actually are. Cash flow. This has got to be the number one reason. We take a dollar amount, we put down on the property, and then we enjoy those benefits that are coming in. We have a definition here of what cash flow is. The annual cash flow before tax for real estate investment properties are typically broken out line by line on the real estate pro forma. And we're going to take you to the Knox Street pro forma and show you that here in a little bit. So again, the net result is the gross income, that potential gross income minus expenses. And then in cash flow, we are going to go ahead and take out the debt service. So we've got a mortgage, assuming we have debt or a mortgage on it. And that is the net cash flow to the property. So when we look at the Knox Street example, and again, here we have Knox Street, and you're going to see this on your spreadsheet. This particular investor, the property sold for $4 million. The investor put $1.2 million down, and they had a mortgage for $2.8 million. And so the cash on cash return on that $1.2 million that they put down is 4.2%. When you take into account the principal reduction that they have, and this is on an annual basis, the number actually increases to 8.3%. The expense ratio, how much the total expenses were on the property, is just under 25%. And then the cap rate, which is the NOI, the net operating income, divided into the purchase price, which was $4 million, is 5.3%. So if the owner paid cash for the property, if they put all $4 million down and didn't have a mortgage, their return would be 5.3%. But because they put money down and they got a loan and they're enjoying those benefits, their cash on cash return is actually a little bit less. It's 4.2%. And we're going to talk about why that is. And we're going to look at that on the spreadsheet here. Well, let's go ahead and go there right now. Let's bring up the spreadsheet, the Knox spreadsheet. And if you're just bringing this up for the first time, you'll see this is my template that I've created over years and edited. And what we have done here is we have built out the income to the property. So we have 18 total units, as you can see here at the bottom. The total amount of bedrooms is 39. I've calculated that out. And each unit is broken out here. We've got 2 studios. We've got a variety of 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. I have each unit number broken out here, the square footage, what the market rent is. I've then analyzed the rent per square foot. That's calculating it. We're looking at the monthly income and then the annual income. And then we have here a vacancy and a credit loss of, I'm using 3% in my market. And once we deduct that, we get an effective gross income of just under $278,000. So there's that number. As we scroll down, we do have some additional supplemental income. We've got some parking income and and a little bit of storage income. There's a couple storage units on this that were rented out on a month in, month out basis. And so that total effective gross income is $279,603, as you'll see. And then we go ahead and after we get our effective gross income, we then have taken out all of our expenses. And so I have these broken out in a way that I like them broken out, and I looked at fixed expenses, which are your real estate taxes. In our market, we have rental licensing fees and insurance. Those are just must-haves. We have utilities, and in this case, we've normalized the utilities. I've looked at this property and I've looked at the income and expenses for 3 years, and so I've kind of averaged them out over the 3 years, looked at where the current market is and where rates are for utilities, and this was basically our best number, or in some cases it was the actual number for the current year or the previous year. And so our total utilities is around $10,000. We then have maintenance and repairs, and this is going to be your supplies, your maintenance, your unit turnover. If there's a fire system, if you've got a sprinkler system, you have annual maintenance. This is all going to be included in that. Pest control, landscaping, kind of lump all those into this category, and we have a total dollar amount, as you can see there, of just over $11,000. Property management, and you might find in your market that people are self-managing. When we're valuing a property, we still want to make sure that we take a management fee out. So this particular property was being managed for 5%, and that 5% number is essentially calculating this number is going and grabbing 5% from the EGI line in the spreadsheet and bringing it back, and it's just under $14,000 per year. Some properties, and I leave this category in here because a larger property might have on-site payroll where you have a maintenance person that's maybe part-time, or you've given somebody a rent concession to be able to watch over the property, or you have a full-time on-site manager. This is an area that you would put all that information in. This is an 18-unit apartment building that doesn't require any on-site administrative or employees, and so we don't have any numbers there. Advertising, the nominal $100 in here. In this particular case, this property is being managed and the property management company does all the advertising, but we threw in $100 there for some very nominal advertising that was done. Our market is very strong and doesn't take a lot of advertising to be able to bring in tenants to this property. I also have an area here for office administration, miscellaneous, and we talk about, and I've got legal and audit if in this particular case the owner has an LLC and they have annual fees due for their company, and then occasionally there's a tenant that maybe has some bad debt or something that needs to be done, or an attorney needs to be advised. You want to make sure that you're pulling out something for that. We have some numbers coming out for security as well. And then we get down at the very bottom the total expenses, which are just shy of $69,000, which again, the expense ratio of 24.6% is calculated based on the $69,000 divided into the EGI. So total expenses divided by the EGI number is going to give us that ratio, that expense ratio. And you can look at other properties and in the market that have sold and look at their expense ratios. What are they selling for? Are they selling at 20%? Are they selling at 40%? Where is the market? So we know in our market that we're seeing properties on the low end from 22, 23% to as high as 35%. This is a newer property and it's running fairly efficiently. There's not a lot of repairs and maintenance needed, and so 25% was, I would say, at the low end of the range, but still reasonable. And so we went ahead and utilized that number. And then as we get to the very bottom here, you're going to see a grid. We've got a capitalization grid, and you can select these numbers to whatever you'd like. I have my grid based on where the market currently is, from 4 3/4 cap up to 5 3/4 cap, and this shows you the impact of value. And what we have done here is we know that the property sold for $4 million, and so that cap rate is 5.3%. And then we get our indicators and such. And so as we go back to the main slide, you're going to see that we've got some of these summary, these different calculations are all coming from that spreadsheet. And so we're pulling that information out. I didn't show you the internal rate of return, and we're going to get to that a little later in this session, and we'll talk to you about how to look at that investment over a long period of time. But from the first benefit of enjoying cash flow, again, the cash on cash return, 4.2%, which is the return that they're getting based on the $1.2 million that they invested and the cash flow that they're getting back out after they pay their mortgage. So as we move on to the second benefit of owning real estate is principal reduction. When you get a mortgage, every month there is principal and interest that's being paid on that mortgage. And so a certain percentage of that loan, depending on the rate and the amortization period, is going towards reducing the principal. And investors buy commercial real estate, investment real estate, for that benefit alone, to reduce that principal over time. And we're going to show you how that works back in the spreadsheet. And if we go back to our spreadsheet again, we're going to show you here that down at the very bottom of the spreadsheet where we were, you're going to see the loan details here. So you can see that we've got a $1.2 million, which was put down, which is 30% of the purchase price. The loan is 2.8 million, which is a 70% loan to value, or LTV. And then the interest rate at the time was 4% over 30 years. And so this actually calculates, if we scroll down just a little bit more here, you're going to see the monthly payments of just over $13,000 a month, and then the annual debt service of $160,000. So when we take our NOI, which is if we scroll back up, you'll see our NOI. You're going to see that we've got our NOI a little bit further here. We got $210,000 roughly of NOI minus our if we scroll back down here to see the payments, $160,000. That gets us $50,000 of annual cash flow. And everything that we're doing is on an annual basis. So when we divide $50,000, 425, into the 1.2 million, that equates to the 4.2% return on the investment. And that's it. That's the math to get cash on cash return. So going back to that second principle of principal reduction, in this mortgage payment of $160,000 a year or $13,000 a month is going to be a portion of interest and a portion of principal. And we're going to see that on the second tab. So down at the bottom, you've got 4 tabs. You've got the 2011 Knox tab, which is going to be the main worksheet that you'll be able to see the Knox transaction and edit your own investment properties. The second tab is going to be the 10-year cash flow. And we're jumping ahead a little bit here, but we've got a calculation every year of the cumulative principal reduction. So this spreadsheet goes out for you and estimates to the penny what the principal reduction is. So in the first year, you're going to see that there was $49,309 of principal reduction reduced on that mortgage. So if the property doesn't go up in value, if it doesn't go down in value, if it stays the exact same at $4 million, at the end of 1 year, we've enjoyed the benefits of 4.2% on this investment, or roughly $50,425. Plus, we've had principal reduction of $49,000. So for a total of almost $100,000 that we've made on that investment, or 8.31%. So when you see that 8.31% of cash on cash return with principal reduction, that's how we derive that number. And that's really key and crucial to be able to show a potential investor that they're making money on principal reduction, the second benefit of owning real estate. And principal reduction is very powerful. You can see here that every year that number increases because the loan amortization schedule, the amount of interest that you pay, slowly declines over the amortization period. This is a 30-year amortization at 4%, and there is an actual schedule. And if you click on, we won't go there, but if you click on the loan amortization table, we'll go ahead and click there and show you briefly. Behind the scenes, go ahead and click there, and we will actually show you the loan amortization for the entire property. So this shows you the scheduled interest and principal for every month. And you can see that the interest portion is dropping and that the principal portion is increasing all the way up till we get to 30 years, 360 months in this. And as you change this, if you go back and you change it to 25 years or 20 years or 30 years or whatever you want, it will automatically calculate your principal and interest and all the numbers for you. So very, very powerful. Principal reduction is, again, our number 2 benefit to owning investment real estate. So as we head back to our main slides here, again, we're going to see here that we've got the numbers here. We viewed the spreadsheet, and we know exactly what the principal reduction is. So we'll move on to the next benefit, which is the third benefit, which is taxes. So again, 4 main benefits of owning commercial real estate: investment property, cash flow, principal reduction, and taxes. Taxes can be very, very beneficial to owning investment real estate. And the main way this is done is through depreciation. And depending on the property type that you have, whether it's commercial or residential, it's going to be classified a certain way. And you'll see here that depreciation, again, reduces the owner's tax bill or the amount of taxes that they pay by basically looking at the useful life of the building. And this is an IRS code that allows you to do this. And we depreciate commercial structures over 39 years. That's a commercial structure. Now, in the case of Knox Street, we're going to get the residential depreciation amount, which is 27 and a half years. So again, a little bit faster on a straight line depreciation. There are several different ways that you can depreciate your real estate investment asset. This is the most common, the straight line depreciation method. There are other more aggressive ways of depreciating your investment real estate, and that will accelerate that. And you need to talk to your tax advisor. We're actually going to take you to my tax advisor, and he's going to talk about some of those a little bit later in this session. But one method that you're going to want to look into or advise your clients to at least consider will be the cost segregation method. And this is a third-party report that will come in, analyze your investment property, and allow you to write off substantially more of your asset in the first year, early years of buying that property or putting that property into place. And so this is something that you'll want to look into. It's a strategy I've used personally and have advised other clients to look at and consider with their advisors. So, but for now, straight line depreciation, 39 years for commercial, 27 and a half for residential, and this is really the third major benefit of owning commercial real estate. We're going to go ahead and take you to another tab, which is the 4 benefits of owning investment real estate. So you have 2 tabs in your resource center. One is the Knox spreadsheet, which is the main Knox spreadsheet we just went through, and the other is the 4 benefits tab. And this is essentially a very similar tab to what we currently did, but this breaks down based on the percentage of land to building, and it actually looks at the land cost that we've estimated, how much personal property is in the investment, the building cost, and then the land cost, and then we're depreciating those at different amounts. As you can see, 3.64% is that 1 year into 27 and a half years. That's the math. That's the amount percentage we can deduct in 1 year with a straight line depreciation. And we're depreciating personal property at 20%, and we're depreciating the land at 5%. So each one has their own ratio. And again, you need to consult your tax advisor. And at the time of the shooting, this is where those numbers were. And so they are subject to change and subject to whatever tax strategies you might be using. So this is calculating, though, the total amount of depreciation that this investor can take in the first year, which is roughly $142,000. So this worksheet is here for you. This is the worksheet that was used on Knox Street. And as you scroll down, it does a very quick and easy income and expense analysis. And then we actually go through the 4 benefits of owning: cash flow, principal reduction, income tax paid or saved, and then we talk about appreciation, which is the next and the 4th and final benefit of owning investment real estate. So when we go back to our main tab here, and we'll head to slide 14, I believe, and we'll talk about appreciation. And this can be one of the most powerful benefits to owning investment real estate, is that as investments rise or fall, we obviously enjoy those benefits. On average, property values have increased over close to a 100-year time period of just over 4% per year. Clearly, we had a major decline in 2008 and 2009 during the Great Recession, and property values dropped. Although investment properties like apartment buildings, some rose. Investment properties have a different, I would say, mechanism, if you will, on appreciation. And a lot of that varies directly on the income. As we talked about, that NOI